And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to Phoenix 76 Tech Talk. I'm Hosey, and I'm here with my friend today,
Edmund.
and we're going to talk a little bit about technology and Edmund's career. So, Edmund, can you give us a little insight as to how did you start your career journey? What led you into this space of technology and being a software engineer?
Well, it all started when I went to college. A professor on the first day that I was at college told me that if I wanted to be successful, I needed to learn computers and I needed to learn communications. And
Okay.
so I took that advice and never looked back. I started right there. I got a job on campus, administrating computers and fixing computers around campus.
Mm,
And that just moved into starting to develop software, which I did just diving in myself. I even started my own company while I was in college, selling software that I had created. So that's just really where it rolled right in from there.
So what I just heard was someone gave you some guidance. Someone told you this is the path you should follow, and you took that and made your mark. So what are some of
Yes.
the misconceptions that people have around tech careers? And how would you go about shifting the way people think or debunking some of those theories? Since you had that mentor, you knew how to get yourself started. What are some of those misconceptions?
I think a big misconception is certainly one that I had was that you had to be some kind of genius to have been
Okay.
in the tech industry. You had to be some genius. You had to have, some support system. You read about all that with, the previous captains of industry where they had, just big support systems. They were geniuses or they were nerds or what have you. You have to love working with gadgets or you're an introvert, things like that, they're all massive misconceptions. All types of personalities can work in the tech industry. Um, and you also don't have to necessarily be young, even though I was when I started. I've seen many
Okay.
people start their careers, at the middle age, and some started their careers even after they had retired from their
Wow.
previous industry and came to work into the tech industry. And so you neither have to be young, you don't have to be a genius type. There are many ways to get into this industry, and many types of personalities will work.
So that was something you just said really, really powerful there. And that was where you start doesn't necessarily mean that's where you're going to end. You can come in from different perspectives. So can you
Absolutely.
provide, for someone who's listening out there, can you provide us an overview of the various roles and career paths available within the tech industry? Because you can go from software development to cybersecurity, even to large language models. So someone who's listening, how can they get involved, and then how can they find their lane to build a career?
That is a great question. And the thing with technology is encompassing almost everything we do on a daily basis now. Back in the day, maybe 30 years ago, people were barely getting computers, on their desks. And now everything they have is a computing device. There's computing devices in their phone, in their car, their laptops on their desk. Every device that you see has, something to do with tech nowadays. So it's involved with everything they do. So anybody that uses their phone or uses any of these devices has already been introduced to technology. And so they've already gotten into the industry and really starting to work then with all these different areas. Just really, they just need to just delve in. There's so many things you can do. You can be a QA developer who looks at code that other people write and fixes them, just like an editor would for a newspaper. There are obviously many levels of being just a software developer, from the very, junior level of a developer that, has a mentor that, starts at the beginning with them. This is how you, start, and they give them little pieces of work to do. And they just sort of grow along from there, to obviously the most principal engineers, which
Okay.
really build things out, and architects and cloud software engineers to people who just develop phone software, or people who are just technical writers. There's still technical people who write all the manuals and documents and things that you need to learn these things. Web engineers, there are UX developers that just develop what it looks like. You don't even have to have, this highly technical background. You just have to have the artistic value to be able to go in there and, present how something should look to an end user. So there are so many levels of and different types of
Okay.
personalities that can be used from all backgrounds.
So what I just heard was there are so many different paths and there are so many options. So let's pivot just a small amount because a lot of people believe you need a computer science degree. I mean, you're saying that folks can come in from different perspectives, different times in their life to do different things. Let's talk about the education. What are your thoughts on some of the alternative paths into this industry, such as coding boot camps? You can go now and do large language models, and you can do self-learning, and even career transitions that someone who might be a technical writer can now all of a sudden start to write those manuals that you talked about. Walk us through your view on the alternative path and education to get into this space.
So the first thing I would say is it has never been required to have a CS degree. In fact,
Really?
working with technology came before even computer science degrees started. Computer science
Wow.
degrees were built on the need for people working with computers. Really, even if you had a computer science degree, that's not even enough. That's just giving you a foundation of what you need to be able to do a software. It really requires somebody who wants, who has the will to really work in this industry
Okay.
because it's always changing. So if you learned something 20 years ago, the relevance of what it is today is probably very, very small. And
Mhm.
that's one of the reasons they only do foundational when you are doing a lot of computer science. But the real programming and things like that, that's much of that is often self-learned. I know that's how I started. I had to self-learn most of these things because there wasn't a class that told you how to write software for Windows or software for Macintosh or software for, these various platforms. They were very, very narrow in how they trained you in these classes, mostly conceptual. So it takes somebody who is willing to go in there and, you know, take some of these camp classes, read some of these books, online guides and things like that, and just sits down and takes the time to actually practice doing that. Your coach can tell you to shoot free throws, but you have to go out there and get to the basketball court and practice shooting those free throws on your own, or you will never be good at shooting those free throws.
So we just walked through some of the skills that are required. Another question are some of the ways that people can get their education, excuse me. One of the things I want to ask you about is what are some of the key skills or qualities that people need? Because somebody's watching us right now saying, okay, I'm really intrigued. I'm excited. I want to do this.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of those skills or qualities, not computer programming, but being, intellectually curious, someone who is a problem solver. What are some of the skills that people need to have when looking for those tech roles, and how can they best demonstrate them during the job search process?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, beyond just the technical skills themselves, because that's kind of the first area people look at, but you really need to show people that you are a problem solver or a critical thinker. And
Okay.
that will take you further than any specific, class or course skill that you learn with anything because things
Okay.
change fast. They need to know that you've got the critical thinking skills to be able to think on your feet, to be able to solve problems. Another thing which I had mentioned when we first started talking is communication. Communication
Okay.
is so important. If you can't communicate with what you're doing or creating, no one will ever see your work. So you have to be able to communicate and have those basic skills of communication and problem solving, critical thinking, to be able to really do anything in this industry. And the last one I'll talk about is just the ability to adapt because the market is constantly changing. And so if you're somebody that is just can only do this one thing, then the market will leave you behind. So you need to be able to adapt. And so, and this is all things that have nothing to do with getting a degree. You know, you could have to, even when you get your degree, you have to be able to adapt. So if you're somebody who can adapt and into a vastly changing market, then you are somebody who can be very successful.
So you just talked about continuous learning, which is really important. And thus far, we walked through your journey. We've walked through some of the misconceptions. We've even walked through what are some of the skills, attributes, and even the learning environment. But let's take a. I have two more questions up, and I want to take a different turn here. And
Okay.
this turn is around something you said in the very beginning. You mentioned that you had someone who was there to mentor, proctor you, and guide you. Let's
Yes.
talk about diversity and equity in this space because one of the things research has shown that people of color make a very small contribution or a very small percentage of this workforce.
Oh,
So
yes.
when you think of diversity and inclusion, what initiative or efforts have you seen to promote diversity in tech careers? And how can individuals contribute to creating more inclusive environments? Walk us through that space, please.
This is a great question. I want to first start off by saying that the professor who guided me was African American. He was the
Okay.
only African American professor, within the applied math department. And for him to
Wow.
have come to me, to have given me that advice was it was everything. You know,
Okay.
he took the time to do that. And that is something that we as minorities in this industry have to do as well. We have to take the time to go to these underrepresented groups and be able to mentor them and let them know that this is really a great field. This is how you get into things. Because I think a lot of people are intimidated by the field. They perceive themselves maybe as
Really?
unworthy or it's really an unfriendly field. And so they're automatically behind just from that mindset. And so to have somebody come in there and say, hey, you can do this. You've seen me do this. You see, I'm just a normal person. I think that is really what needs to happen and what is happening is that we are reaching out to these underserved communities, going to schools, going to colleges, and going to just different areas to make sure that these groups see that we're out here. And there are many organizations like NSBE for women, the NCWIT, the National Center for Women in Infotech. There are so many different organizations out there amongst the communities that serve this industry, and they are there to help and to help guide people into these industries. So that's what's happening, but a lot more of it needs to happen.
So there's something you said that was really interesting and very powerful as well. It was the professor who encouraged you was an African American professor, and just having that knowledge dropped into your ear and him giving you that confidence was important. Then you talked about not feeling intimidated. So, and you even mentioned how we should go out to the community and impact people to encourage them. So, final question. Somebody out there is watching us right now and they're going, man, I love this. I just really don't know if this is for me. What words of encouragement or advice would you offer to someone who's considering a career in this space to not feel intimidated? They may not have come from the perfect home. They may not have had all of the classes that someone else may have had from another college, a collegiate institution. How would you tell them to feel encouraged like that professor did for you and still seek their own truth?
Yeah, I would first tell them, you know, be yourself. Never be afraid of who you are or where you came from. We are all created equal. Understand that they are very capable of doing this work and of being in this industry. I would tell them no matter what, the thing that has helped me is to persevere. There will be lots of ups and downs in these industries, and their
Okay.
ability to persevere is what will bring them through. If they're really ready to just dive in and to keep working hard, to keep pushing, to be patient, but stay focused and again, persevere, and they can do this.
So,
Absolutely. I know we can.
so everyone, thank you so much. Thank you, Edmund. Everybody,
You're welcome.
stay tuned to the next broadcast. See you soon. Thanks for joining us here with Phoenix 76 Tech Talk. Talk to you later.
Thank you.